God bless everyone out there in Radio Land. This is Prophet Craig and Barry and Karen. And this is Embracing Marriage with Barry and Karen. And we thank God for the opportunity to come to you tonight with another podcast. And we thank God for the opportunity to bring you the Word of God once again. And thank God for just you joining us in this podcast, like I said before. Hello, wife.
Hello, how are you?
All right. I'm good. Okay. Like I said, this is April the 7th. This is our next episode of podcast, Embracing Marriage with Barry and Karen. And I'm Barry and this Karen, and we're a couple who just came out of something, and we want you to know that God can bring you out as well. So tonight we're just going to share with you what God has been sharing with us, and we want you to be helped by the word that we speak tonight, just to kind of let you know what we're about. But like I said, we're not counselors. We're just a couple that has been married for 20 years that has had some problems in the past, but God has showed us how to come out of it. And we have word pastors of a church, and we did pastor for a while, and so we do have some wisdom from God, not our own wisdom, but His wisdom, and that's what we're looking at and looking toward tonight. So, just to kind of recap, we're running a series of lessons called Season of Marriage, and it's based on this book written by Gary Chapman, and we have covered 2 of them so far. If you want to hear the other 2 lessons that we had done, you can go to embracingmarriagetogether.wordpress.com. Go there, and there's a link for our podcast. You can check us out there. But the other 2 podcasts are in posts that are in the post link. You click on that, you can check out the actual post and click and listen to the actual podcast separately from the listing that is in the front. Just go there and check us out and hear words, and we have other podcasts that we have done. You can check us out there. Now, we did winter. We started off with winter. He started with winter, which was the roughest part of the marriage relationship. It's that time when you're in separation mode, when you're ready to divorce, and when you have constant arguments, and the things are not ever going to get better, and it seems like everything's just dead. Seems like everything's just gone and barren, and there's no life and there's nothing left. And so we dealt with that, and how we were in that place, and how that God brought us out of that. And then we also dealt with spring, which is to bring the renewal and the bringing of new life, talking about the season that we're in now, which is spring. And so tonight we're going to cover summer. And there are certain differences in summer and spring. Summer and spring are not the same. I guess it depends on where you live. Because in Texas, we seem like we just have 2 seasons, summer and colder summer. So it's not really, you can't tell the differences between the seasons. But we're in spring season in Texas where we are. And so we noticed that the only way we realize that we're in that season is that we notice that our cars are yellow, because we get this pollen from the trees, because they're budding, because they know. And that's what we were talking about last week, how that there is a way that the seasons are known by the trees and by the plants, and they know. Even when we can't even tell, they know when winter actually comes. If you want to know how long winter's going to be, the groundhog don't know. Ask trees. They know.
Yes.
Anything, those plants know, because they've been set on a timetable. They've been set on a way to, God's created them with an instinct ability to know when the season change. So just look at the trees, look at the grass, look at everything that's planted, so you'll know that season is about to change. So, and we're talking about how that there are certain things that will hibernate in winter, and that will come out in spring, and that you deal with them in spring, and the differences in the things that happen. So, like I said, we're gonna deal with summer, and summer is a season that It is a season that we was reading is it's a season of connection. It's a season of commitment and accomplishment. Because in this part of your relationship, especially if you come through winter and you've worked your way through spring, you come into summer, you've been through some things, you put up with some stuff, you dealt with some things, and then all of a sudden there is a breakthrough that happens. And then all of a sudden now you're in this mode of really connecting, because usually summer represents vacations and people travel and there's busyness and there's fun and there's a lot of excitement and joy, because of people a lot of times take vacations during this time during summer. And so when you have a season in your marriage where you notice that you're really committed to one another, you made up your mind that no matter what our differences are, we're going to work through those differences, and we're going to commit ourselves to that. And the best way, like I said, to describe our season is to tell you about our season,
Right.
because that's where we're at now.
Mm-hmm.
And when we was reading a little bit, we kind of brushed through it to kind of get an idea of what, we're going to bring out. I began to think back when we were in our winter season and then now versus when our summer. One of the things that we found out that a person, when they're in their summer season, is that it becomes easier for them to resolve conflict.
Right.
And we learned when that's one of the things that we learned, and we continue learning to resolve our conflict quick.
Yeah, even on today.
See, it's one thing, and y'all gonna realize that when we are not perfect, and when we go through something and when we come through it, I mean, it can happen 24 hours or a few hours or an hour from now from ago. We're gonna tell you, you know why? Because we want you to see how that if we can go through all that and then come out of that and then still be able to do what we're doing without any, without us, without it being a problem. Because a lot of people feel like, well, they have to be perfect to do what we're doing, like talk to couples and tell them how to be a good husband and how to be a good wife and how to do this. And no, it's no perfection in that. Believe me, it's a constant learn. You could be married 100 years and still would not learn everything there is about marriage. You can read every book, go to every seminar, you can talk to the Lord yourself, and you would never really get to the point that you would know everything that is possible about marriage. We barely scratching the surface, because because marriages are different, and they're different for different people.
That's right. And you'll never have it all together.
No. No, you'll never have it all together. And we don't have it all together. Now, I'm not saying that we're bad and that we're so horrible that we just, we weren't good. We weren't good when we went through it, but we're good now. But when we have those things that come up, we like to share them to you and how we resolved it. So then when they come up in your life, you say, well, hey, the Crays can resolve theirs, and they went through what they went through, and I know they went through some stuff. So if we tell them and tell you how we come out of it, you'll be encouraged to be able to try the method and see if it works.
Yeah, and then some of it wasn't even conflict. A lot of it just things that you just don't understand.
Well, misunderstanding.
Yeah.
The two biggest enemies to a relationship is misunderstanding and assumption. Mm-hmm. Because that kept us in winter for a long time. It's not the book, but this is what God is dealing with me about, because that's what the thing that I'm talking about us, because he's basing the book on a lot of the counseling that he's done. So he has examples of people that has been through this, but I'm talking about us. Our relationship, when it went through that, what kept us in winter a long time was those two things.
Yeah, longer than what we should have been.
Because remember, if you recall the last time we talked, I told you that we do every year go through that. For the past, we've been married 20 years, and every year we go through the beginning of the year, we happen to go into this place. And I think it's just a pattern that the enemy tried to just set in our lives. And so we would go through that, but eventually we would get about more like we are now. About this time, we'd be good, we'd be good. But then I realized that a lot of things start reoccurring. So what it was is that it's not resolved. And so a lot of times when you don't resolve an issue, it'll just keep coming back. It'll keep coming up. It'll keep surfacing because we keep pushing it down. It keeps popping up. It's just like a jack in the box. If you push that thing and it just keeps popping up every time you turn around, every time you crank up the handle, it pops up. So certain things are going to cause these unresolved things to pop up. And like you said, a lot of times this may not be, in our case, it wasn't an unresolved issue. It was something that we didn't understand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like she said.
Yeah.
So when we started, just to give you a snapshot of what we're doing, what we happened when God started dealing with us about doing this together. There were certain things before we even purchase a piece of paper. We had to sit down and make sure that we had some kind of commitment to one another, some kind of rules. I had sat down when I taught, and I'm gonna find them and do them. I had it was like 10 commandments of commitment for her safety, certain like that. I named it something else, but what it was a 10 commandment commitment. I basically did. When I sat down and I wrote out 10 different things that I would do and commit to in order for us to be able to do what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. And there was things that a few of them was things I had to stop doing, and a few of the things I had to start doing. And this was during the time we were still,
trying to work on
it.
We was trying to, I guess, come to some common ground and try to, let's see, what am I trying to say? Well, we was trying to stop the conflict that we was having, and we was noticing things that was causing it. So we were just coming up with some boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah, we setting boundaries.
Yeah, we were setting boundaries.
And that's what it was. It was boundaries that we set, and we made sure that if we're going to do this, this is what needs to happen. And so one of the things that we had decided to do, that we was going to do everything different than what me and my brother was doing in the past. And I shared that with him and let him know that, hey, we're going to start it, but what we're doing is totally different than what we did in the past. It's not even going to be the same. It's not going to even be the same subject. It's not going to even be the same format. It's not even the same. We're not even using the same programs. Everything was different. And I had to go and research, and I had to find something that was different than what we did before. I couldn't. That's why we're not live, because I was using stuff that would put me on the air live. And because of the fact that we didn't have the time to do a live podcast, I said, we just do a podcast and then we'll post it, and that'll be it. We don't have to do it live. She wasn't comfortable doing it. She's still uncomfortable doing it like this. So can you imagine her doing it live? And you'd be like, oh, and it does. See, I was used to doing it because we did it live. I did it live, and it burnt me out really. And that was another thing that I didn't want to do, because we started off doing our podcast. My brother, I started off by myself, and I was doing it 4 days? Yeah, 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was doing it 4 days a week, and I put in at least a couple of hours because I do my podcast, and then after that is post-production. So I had to edit it. I had to cut this and trim that and make sure this sounded right, make sure the sound was perfect. So because that's how committed I am for it, because I want to make sure it's done right, and I do it as unto the Lord. So if I want Him to be pleased with it just as much as I am.
Yeah.
So I tell you, she'll tell you, I take the time to do it. I was up one night when we did our for our last podcast, we finished it late, and I was falling asleep trying to edit it. I fought it long enough to edit it and listen to it to see if it came out. I said, God, I hope it sounds like something. So, because I was tired. I kid you not. We work during the day, and then we get home, we do everything we need to do. We run around, and we come home, we eat, and then we sit down and do this. So by the time we do it, we try to do it as early as between 8 and 9 our time, so that we go to bed at a decent hour. So that's the reason why we do it this time. And it's best for us, because if we try to do this live, it would be impossible. It would be, because we wouldn't have the time. We would miss the moment every time, because I was trying to do it live, and a lot of times my wife had things to do, and I missed doing the whole podcast. And I was like, and I felt bad, because I said, and I couldn't do it, but my wife, what she had to do is more important than that. So I said, I can make that up, and I learned not to put, and I did for a while, put that before her.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that we said. One, we wasn't going to put nothing, these things in before our marriage. Our marriage comes first. Our family comes first. It was God, our marriage, and then our children, and then our jobs, and then everything else fall under that. So we don't put nothing before anything, this stuff before anything else, and say before we get it, we had to understand that we had to limit our exposure to a lot of stuff. And so because of where I was into before, I had to make sure that everything was taken care of, as far as filters and as far as me not having certain places I go, and I'm good about that now, because I don't venture off into crazy stuff. I ain't got time for all that. Because this right here takes a lot of my attention. If I'm not gaming, I'm doing this. So, and then when I'm at work, I'm looking at YouTube trying to learn how to use the stuff that I have. I'm looking at how to use Audition. I'm doing Audition again. So I'm learning how to use Adobe Auditions, and trying to learn how to edit, to do, and also video. We're working on video. So we hadn't done a video yet. And if you're on YouTube, you notice we hadn't done any face-to-face videos yet. We're working on that. So we'll have some up. So if you go to YouTube, our YouTube page, you'll see some soon. And but like I said, getting back to the subject hand, I don't want to get too far off into it. Summer is a time of commitment. And this is the example, and that's where I'm going with this. The example was today. Misunderstandings and assumptions will keep you in winter longer than you need to be. Just remember that. And what happened, even in summer, there is going to be some heat. Okay? Because summer is your hot months. Your hot months being, May, June, July, August. That's your hot months, according to the calendar. So your hot months, even though summer is fun, even though summer is exciting, even though summer is a time for recreation, it's for a time of commitment and together, connection, guess what? You're going to get some heat.
Yes.
You're going to get some heat. So sometimes the misunderstandings and both are misunderstandings. In our case, it wasn't assumptions, misunderstandings. Before we get into assumptions is our heat.
Yeah.
Because we had experienced it before. And a lot of times you'll feel the heat of that, and you're like, okay, how am I handle this? How you handle it at that moment really shows whether or not you've grown together. And it did for us, because now I used to not be, when she would bring something to me, and a lot of times when she brought up stuff, she would already be on 10 in emotions.
Right.
Now, let me share something with you, wife. If you want your husband to listen to you about an issue, get calm first.
Yes.
Because he's not going to respond to you well if you come to him emotional.
Yeah, not the way that you want him to.
No, he wouldn't respond the way you want him to. Now, you want him to, if you want him to confess something, or if you want him to be honest about something, or you just want him to talk to him about something that you're concerned about, there's a way you can come to him, and vice versa. Guys, if you come to your wife and you upset about her spending too much money, you don't care. Say, look here, woman. No, don't start with that statement.
I call like charging like a bull.
Yeah, come in charging like a bull, or is she your daughter? Don't come in there like that. You know, sit her down and say,
or even don't even come trying to, because sometimes we feel intimidated. Y'all come try to intimidate.
Yeah, because it's easy, especially if you're a guy who's real boisterous in your emotions, because a lot of guys are they're not totally emotional. Some of them are quiet, but then some of them they kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can intimidate a person.
Yeah, you can intimidate a person because you're loud, and so. But there is a way that you can explain, and also. You don't have to get defensive. Don't get defensive. If she asks you about something, don't get defensive, because she's just asking because she's insecure about it. She's just trying to find a way to say it to you so it wouldn't come across as she accusing you of something. Now, a lot of times, yeah, she may be. and to you, it sounds like she's accusing you of something, and then you get defensive. But if you sit down and really listen to her, like I told someone he was telling me about that. I say, if you sit down and really listen to her, she'll tell you what's going on, because according to Gary Chapman's book, he was saying about that in love languages. If you ever want to know what a person love language is, listen to their complaint. Mm-hmm. If they complain about you never being around, always gone, and you never home, if that's their complaint, guess what their love language is? Quality time. Because they don't see you. They want that companionship. And if you're not around a lot, now if they tell you, well, hey, when you gone, nothing get done, or when you come home, you don't ever do what you're supposed to do. You don't ever take out the trash, or you never wash the car, or you never do this, never do that. You don't pay the bills and stuff. Act service, Mm-hmm. So if you hear that, then you'll know exactly, okay, this is what we need to do to fix that. My biggest thing is mine's quality time, and I shared to her, I said I wanted her to be a part of my world, and I wanted to come in and do what I do. And the connection part came about when we started she came into my world. When I started to involve her and include her into my world.
Because that was my number one.
Yeah, her number one complaint was
I don't feel included.
I don't feel included. Yeah, she always would say that, and I didn't understand that at first. And I was saying, well, how she can say that? It's sitting right here. That didn't necessarily mean she felt included. No. I mean, just because I was most of the person that did most of the stuff, or I was the one that gamed all the time, and I had gamer friends that I talked to, and she wasn't feel like, included. But what kind of woke me up is I watch streamers a lot, and I noticed a lot of streamers stream with their wives. They would play games with them and stuff like that. And I said, I want that with my wife. I really do. I know she can play certain games. She can't play a lot of games I can play, but she plays something. We do something together. It's a connection. It doesn't matter. It's not about what you do. It's about the connection. And I think she wanted to connect with me because she knew that's what I like. And we tell you, we don't have the same interests. We don't. I mean,
we are totally opposite.
Yeah, we're totally opposite.
I mean, if y'all was to do an interview and just to see what we have in common, mm-hmm. It would be maybe that we love God and we love each other.
Yeah.
And pretty much very few, maybe a few foods, but
yeah.
Other than that, I mean, it's like there's nothing. Y'all be like, well, how did y'all get together? How did y'all marry? Because I mean, we don't have nothing in common. Even just total opposite.
Total opposite. And it's funny, even our zodiac signs is total opposite.
Yeah. But,
we're total opposite to everything way you can. Our personality traits are opposites. Nothing.
And I think one while we did find out that we was having personality clashes.
Yeah. Oh, that's another
bad.
Yeah. That's another thing. We're gonna do a lesson on they did this thing. We looked it up, it was like 16 personalities, and we did a test on it. And if you ever want to find out kind of personality traits you have, go to 1616personalities.com, and they have this survey you take. And if you take that survey, it tell you pretty much your personality. And a lot of times they hit us both on the head. And the only difference with me is I was dualistic in the way that I was like her at one sometime, then I was like another trait another time. Mine was kind of like a middle. But hers is perfect balance, and that's what I call her. She's the consummate scale. She's the perfect balance. She's right, wrong, good or bad, black or white, up or down. Up. It's either right or left. It's no in between. I have in between. She don't.
And that's and that's what
the conflict
was.
Yeah. And so we're gonna tell you more about that as we talk about this. But let me tell you about the story, so we won't get too long. So we can get some. Because she's gonna ask me some stuff. So I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna go into that. What had happened? Just share with y'all. What had happened was we had like I said, there are certain programs that I will not use because in the past they have caused a lot of problems with us, and we was trying to keep everything separated to a point where the only thing we don't have a whole lot of emails. We had a whole lot of email addresses that we didn't need, and we had a lot of stuff that we used. We was trying to get on everything, and we had an Instagram, we got rid of it. We had Twitter, we got rid of it. We had another two Facebook pages.
Yes.
Plus we had pages for our Facebook profiles. We had 3 of those.
Yeah, just by every social site.
We had every social site you think, except for we had LinkedIn, which we never hardly ever used. We had what else we had? Well, we had a Google Plus. We used that. The only ones we actually actively used was the Facebook, the Google Plus, and the emails. We used those ones. But the rest of that stuff we was using on occasion, but that was where everything was happening around on that other stuff. So we decided there's a lot of stuff we're just not going to use. Some programs we're not going to use, and there are certain things we're just not going to get into because, of course, it will cause conflict. And one of the things we had an issue with was an Outlook, because we had a lot of junk come through there back in the day. We're going to use it. We use a whole different email client. So we got 2 emails, and so that's what we know. That's what we use. She got apps for both of them. She checks them. I check them. So we both check our emails. We don't erase histories. We don't get rid of. Everything that we go to, each of us, we can see it. Our YouTube searches, every video I watch, she just sees it. So everything, you got a history for everything. So if I need to snapshot something, I can do that because I think it's an app on there so I can snapshot the screen if I need to. But the thing is, we don't use certain things. And so one day, today, she was going through the email, and it had an email that said from me, which was talking about me, because it's like I sent myself one or something, or it was, she didn't know what to say with her. And so remember I told y'all last time about her tone, right? What's this? So
well, I asked like that regardless.
She acts like that regardless. You do. But she asked me what was it, and I couldn't see what she showed it to me. She did, because back in the day, she would when we was going through that before, she would ask me what it is, but never show me what it is. She would say, I'm looking at this and this and this and this and this and this. She pointed at the phone, but I'll never see what she's talking about. So I had to ask her, please let me see what you're talking about so I can at least know what you're talking about. So this time she actually showed it to me, but then it was misunderstood because the way what I had done was that I sent my brother an email about our podcast when first he got it. So I was showing him so he could check it out. So I sent it to him, and it said on the bottom thing, sent from where it was sent from, and it was sent from Mail Windows 10. So there's an app it's the email client for Windows 10. And so when she clicked on the link on her phone, if you click on a link on your phone, especially when it says mail, it'll instantly go to the Google page. It'll go to Google Play Store and go to the actual app that you can use for your Android, because we had Android. So it went to the Outlook. Of course, you know what happened. Say, I thought, and then we went there. So she was asking me. She didn't get mad. She just was asking me, do we have it? I thought we were supposed to not get it, and I said, well, we don't have it. And there was another app she asked me, and I had to show her. I said, well, these two apps are different. So I showed her where I did it from. I even showed the email itself. So like I say, never get rid of anything. The only time I deleted something, my email was a date, because I asked her. I said, hey, you want me to delete this because it's taking up space? But we don't do anything. I don't delete while she's not around, and get rid of email and stuff, so she won't see it and all this other stupid stuff. So anyway, I showed her what it was, and she asked to make sure that it wasn't the same, because she wanted to understand that it wasn't the same. And so when I explained it to her that one was different from the other, and I showed her where the other one was, she saw it for herself. That's how she is. She see it. That's how she's convinced of it. So I had to show her, and I was patient with her. And back in the day, I wasn't. I mean, I would get upset, get defensive, and all this other stupid, get frustrated, and your voice raised, and why you yelling? It must be something wrong. And so then that continued into argument. So yeah, this time I just, now I've gotten to the point where she do approach me on something, I pause and I think about, the Bible said that the wise study how to answer. So if you're wise, you'll know how to answer a question properly, because the soft answer turns away wrath. You don't want to come at nobody wrong, and you don't want to respond the way that you being come at. And she didn't come at me in any kind of aggressive way like back in the day, though. When she would do it,
I would be rude.
Yeah, she
wouldn't care.
And wouldn't care, because she felt violated or felt whatever, some kind of way, and she wanted me to know she felt some kind of way. And I was doing the same. I was reflecting back to her what she was giving, and we was doing that, was bouncing it off each other. And that's all we was doing. And no one was understanding anyone. No one was listening to each other. We were just bouncing this stuff off each other. She serve it and I serve it. I hit it back. She serve it and I hit it back. I serve it. She hit it back. It was like a tennis match in the arguments. Mm-hmm. So, but what ended up happening, she once she got the information, she was fine. She made sure, as long as she made sure that we didn't have all this going on, she was good. And she also, all of a sudden, she just stopped and said, okay. And that was it. And, back in the day, oh no, we've been seam hugging.
Oh, yeah.
We'd have been seam hugging. That would have been the rest of the night, and night been gone.
Oh, yeah.
Whole night, seam hugging. So... So, if you don't know what seam hugging is, get in an argument before you go to bed and see how close to the seam of the mattress you can hug it. That's seam hugging.
Enough where you won't fall over and hit the floor. That's what seam hugging. Yeah, that means then if you move if you take another move, you're gonna be on the floor.
You're gonna be on the floor. Yeah. You trying to get as far away from each other as you can. Don't even touch me. Don't even scrape me with your foot. That kind of nonsense. Oh man, look, I tell you, we making this comfortable, but believe me, when we was going through it, it was not funny, and it was a dark time for us. But I tell you what, summer is the brightest season of the year too, and that's when all clarity comes. I think that was one of the things you mentioned. Then let's go into that.
Okay.
She's gonna kind of read some stuff.
Yeah, some of the things that he mentioned. Yeah. I just wanted my husband to expound on a little bit about summer, when he was talking about the emotions.
Okay.
How did we know we was in the summer season of our emotions?
Well, emotions, we was able, like I said, to do it better.
Well, because we was because I made mention one time that I don't feel no emotions are connected to you emotionally.
And that, whether you said it right there, it's the connection came back. Mm-hmm. The emotions were, if I'm not mistaken, it was a connectedness. There was a joy. Mm-hmm. It was a joy that came up in it again. We started to enjoy one another again. We started to be connected. We started to see. We started to know what each other was starting to feel. We started to feel what the other was feeling. to understand one. The understanding was better. Our conflict, our communication really was really the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Communication is a big thing, especially constructive. He said there in the book, to deal with a situation and deal with it constructively without it being an argument, but just being a discussion. And that's what we do now.
Mm-hmm.
We discuss the issue. We come up. We don't argue about it. We just discuss it, and we get an understanding from each other. And so we won't have that problem coming up again in our marriage, because we understand that this is something that we've resolved, and we're gonna have to relive it. Now, that's one thing I can say: you don't rehash old stuff.
Right.
We weren't doing. I notice now that when we deal with an issue, it's done with. We don't even talk about it anymore.
It's true.
We don't even bring it into the next discussion.
Yeah, because I know we would always tell each other, love doesn't keep count.
Yeah.
Of a suffered wrong.
That's it, and that's in 1 Corinthians 13,
Mm-hmm.
and the amplified version of it says that love doesn't take account of a suffered wrong. The word that you say is doesn't keep record of things done to it.
Mm-hmm.
The word they use for keep record means to make an account or to make a list or to keep a record of, just like you said.
Like I had a history of doing that.
Yeah.
I had a history. It's a little testimony. I had a history of reminding him
Mm-hmm.
of everything he done wrong when we would get into a conflict. I don't know, maybe because it wasn't resolved, or maybe I was just emotionally, I was just there,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just go way back as far as I could remember.
Or she snatches way back.
And supposed to be then forgave and apologized for it, and evidently the apology wasn't from the heart. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
we'll just say, well, I forgive you. But then it'll come back again. So I say, well, you know what? I didn't forgive from the heart. I was just saying that so we could just stop arguing.
Yeah.
So and I would keep account, and he would always tell me, well, when are you gonna let me live this down?
Mm-hmm.
You keep bringing this up. When are you gonna? Some of you would always say, "I'd let you explain that."
I always tell her when she's gonna let it release it, because I read something that Kenneth Copeland said in a magazine, and we was talking about, because we'll believe in God for stuff, and it said that faith doesn't work in the heart of unforgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
He said that in a magazine, and I showed her that. She wasn't happy when I showed her that, but because at the time she'll tell you, if you listen to the last podcast we talked about, and she told you, see, she was walking in unforgiveness, and I would tell her, she wouldn't say, no, I'm not, because in her head, she figured she was right. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying, especially the betrayed spouse, they really do feel justified feeling the way they feel because they've been done wrong. But the thing is that it still boils down to you. Forgiveness, like I said, is not about the other person. It's about you. Mm-hmm. It's about you being free, because the word actually means to be set free or to be loosed of. So you're being loosed from the responsibility of that problem, their problem being your problem. You let it, you don't excuse what they do, but you don't let what they do have power over your life.
True. Okay, another thing I wanted to ask you was about when your season changed, how did our attitude start changing towards one another? Because I know one of mine would be our conflict was distrust.
Yeah.
It was trust and belief.
Mm-hmm.
So how did our guess you could share a little bit how our attitudes changed towards that?
Well, it did it in such a quick fashion that I couldn't say it was a gradual step, because one of the things that if I was to slow it down to say, okay, this is how it went down, was I think our attitude about when we actually stopped assuming what the other one was doing and just accepting the differences that we had. Mm-hmm. Accept the fact that, okay, what was done was done. When we made the decision that we was going to let go of all this a lot of this stuff, and I think what really the game changer was when I changed my schedule and got around around you, and started being around you where you could see me, where you could talk to me, and where you could hear what I was, hear from my perspective what was going on with B and whatnot. And actually, it was a matter of me showing you more than telling.
Yeah, because it cut down on a lot of the suspicions.
Yeah.
Because I think you would always tell me, well, you're always suspicious, and I'm like, no, I'm not. And I think, like I said, a lot of time I had a problem with trusting.
Yeah.
A huge problem with trusting. So now, I know I'm trusting you more than I ever did. So that was a big thing.
Oh, I can tell you what it was. The day when I made in my mind that I could not hold you for the things that happened to me in childhood. That's what it was.
Yes.
Because we had, both of us, that's what really all this come from.
Yeah.
Mine was the fact that when I had a real dominating mother, my mother was real dominant. She intimidated you by yelling and stuff like that. So she would whoop me. When she was gotten older, she started yelling a lot, and I just could not stand that. And so when we got into arguments, I would react the same way she would. I would with my mother, and I would.
It was like a reminder.
It was a reminder, and in her case, because of the fact that she already had trust issues, I made it worse by doing some of the things that I did, and so she was reacting according to that, and her mindset was, if you do me wrong, I'm gonna do you wrong. It was never letting it go. I'm gonna deal with you. Then I maybe I'll let it go. Maybe, it was one of them kind. So, we had to. And so when we were basically, and then there was boundary issues because her father left them when they was young, and she was raised by her mother, and her mother was, not mentally stable at the time. They had to kind of raise themselves. And so it was a lot of that. But when I got to the point where I said, you know what, I forgave my mother for all that stuff, and I let it go. And once I let it go with her, because I did it before she died, I let it go with her. That's when I started treating my wife differently. I had to remember that she was not my mother. She was a totally different person. Although we were yelling and screaming at each other and stuff, she's not her. She is my wife, and she is a different person. And I had to see it that way. And then once I started seeing it that way, my attitude toward it changed.
Yeah.
And
as his attitude towards me changed, and I changed mine, because then I started to change how I look at him, how I perceived him as a husband, and as a leader. Because at one while my perception of him as a husband, even as a leader, I attacked his character. You could be so clouded till it's this,
you don't realize.
And so I had to realize, okay, when I started changing how I perceive him, that's when I realized, I said, well, okay, I know I'm trusting him again, and I believe, in you more now than I ever did, because at one while it was gone. I just had nothing. So now that's how I realized that my attitude and the way I respond, even on today, I was like, I said, well, wow, I did good.
Yeah. She did excellent. We both did. We're growing and we're learning, and that's the key. The one thing this summer is you're in the pattern of growing, because things still grow. You're in growth, and you're growing together, and we're learning about our marriage again, and we're going to classes. We're taking, different things and learning about,
especially communication.
Yeah, especially communication.
So I realized, okay, well, we did have some growth in that. We are growing, and we're learning how to communicate.
That's it.
So we are getting there in that area.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to bring this to a close, but we thank God for you listening to us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we want you to go to our website. Go to the embracingmarriagetogether.wordpress.com. We're going to click on the link for posts and just leave us a comment. Let us know what you think, and click on the links that take us to the podcast. Download it, share it with your friends. If you're listening to us on YouTube, which is Embracing Marriage, Embrace Marriage Ministries. If you're listening to that, like, share, subscribe, get some views up. Let us know how you feel about it, good, bad, or otherwise. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, whichever one, so we'll know that some people are actually out there listening to us, not just clicking through. Also check us out. On Google Plus. We're also on Google Play, and we're hopefully hearing from Spotify, so we'll tell you about that soon as well. There's another thing I'm going to announce on tomorrow afternoon. I'm trying to announce a different area that we're about to go into, so I'm gonna tell you about that later on. So we want you to know that, like I say, if you have any prayer requests, you can go to the contact us. Click on that and send us a prayer request if you need prayer. Send us a comment if you want to just thank us or whatever. If you heard the message, you want something that we said or that shared with you that blessed your life, let us know so we can be able to pray for your needs and believe God for you turning this thing around and being in the best marriage that you could possibly be in. So on that note, we're going to say good night.
And have a blessed day.
And we'll see you on the next time. God bless.